Is Bernard going to run again?
I haven't the slightest idea. He hasn't said no. I think the pundits have been noticing he hasn't said no. He's astonishingly healthy. I can't imagine when I was 20 I couldn't have run around the country like he's doing now. I'm not a bad example. I'm 6 years older than Bernard. I'm as active, and I think the brain is as good as it was 40 years ago. So I think it's not impossible, and I think at the moment his activity is so effective and so important to the country. I may be biased, but in my view he's become the opposition, the voice of the opposition to the Trump administration.
It's not just a matter of being biased because you're his brother. It's the facts. He's the most popular politician in the whole country right now,
yes.
and not only that, he's also the most popular politician in the Democratic Party. So 80% of Democrats support Bernie Sanders. The establishment Democrats say, let's do unity. I go, okay, great, a deal. They think we're going to say no. I say yes. Let's unify behind the most popular politician in the country.
Makes sense.
Right? It makes so much sense that any other argument is preposterous. So they say, no, let's unify behind a less popular politician or stance. And then go, well, no. Why would I do something stupid? Right? I would,
yes.
If all I cared about was politics, I would unite behind the most popular person.
That's right.
In the country. So, based on your answer, it sounds like there's a pretty healthy chance, to slight pun, there, that he might run, because I just saw him speak at a death penalty dinner in L.A. a couple of weeks ago, and it struck me that the whole reason why everybody thought he's not going to run is age, right? And that we were making the same mistake that people made last time around, which is, oh no, Bernie can't win for X or Y or Z. And in this case, the Y was age. But I think that if you ask Americans, based again on the polling, he's now almost twice as popular as Donald Trump. Bernie at 79 or Trump at any age, I think that they're going to say Bernie at 79. Yeah. And Trump's going to be 74.
Yeah.
And the establishment tells us that that a very legitimate candidate is Joe Biden, who would be 78. So what's the difference between 78 and 79?
Yes, and a friend of mine who's professional in these things says there are a lot of evidence that from Trump's utterances that over the years his mind, such as it ever was, is deteriorating.
His mind, such as it ever was. Yes, if that mind deteriorates, there is a. and you know, I went around with Bernie during the campaign in California for a couple of days. And to your point, I couldn't believe that he had remained healthy through the primaries. 2 days exhausted me. And he'd been doing it at that point for over a year. Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Democratic Party then. So they put him in leadership in the Senate. They went and did a unity tour. But again, they didn't really seem to want to unify around his ideas. So any sense of where he stands now? Did he think that they were going to see the light and see reason and come towards him, and have they not done so?
Well, I have to disappoint you. We don't talk. First of all, we used to talk very regularly every 2 weeks on a Sunday. Since he's been doing crazy things, it's much more scattered than that. But even when we talk all the time, we talk much more about the grandchildren. So politically speaking, I know no more than anybody who reads his press.
Yeah. Okay, then let me ask you your take on the Democratic Party, right? So, that's not a try to way to get to Bernie's point, because you just said you don't talk about it.
I've got my own.
Yeah, so your point of view on, so Bernie tried this unity tour, you see it just as much as I see it and everybody sees it. What was your sense? Did that work, not work?
Well, it didn't look like it worked. I think the fact that they were on the same platform was symbolic and worth something, but there is a clash. It's not made up. There is a difference in policy between the mainstream, which I imagine the new chairman represents more, and Bernard's point of view. And different people in the audience responded to it, which people do. They boo and they cheer and all that sort of thing. So I think it was very difficult to keep together. I think it was to the credit of both that they tried, and they kept it more or less together. So I don't think that that was a mistake. If you want to unify a party, that's the kind of thing you have to try.
And what's your sense of whether the Democratic Party is going to have come to Jesus, or maybe in this case come to Bernie moment, or whether they're not going to? Because especially because you have the perspective of what happened with labor here.
Yes. Well, you're right. I think there's so many similarities. But it's a very hard question to answer. First of all, to my mind, there isn't any this great unified thing that you can call the Democratic Party. It's hundreds of different factions, partly because of geography, this state and that state and so on, and not necessarily the same people or even the same principles. I think what's happening, I read almost every day, because I follow Bernard very great affection. There are elections, state house elections, congressional elections, and very often there's two people running, and one of them is more identified with Bernard, usually not exactly identified, and one is more identified with the mainstream Democratic Party. So I think that I can't see how that is avoidable. That's going to happen. I think the movement is in the direction of Bernard, but by no means overwhelming yet. He wins some, he loses some. But the Democratic Party is, this great inchoate mass, is shifting and battling. And I have no idea where it's going to come out, but it will come out somewhere different from where it's been.